Build wealth wisely. Build wealth wisely.
What if I told you one tiny number has quietly stolen hundreds of thousands of dollars from millions of people? It's not taxes, it's not inflation, it's interest rates. And in the next few minutes you'll discover why this invisible number is changing your mortgage, your savings, and even the future of the global economy. Imagine this. You and your sister buy the exact same house, same neighborhood, same floor plan, same purchase price, even the same down payment. But somehow, you're paying almost $800 more every single month. What changed? It wasn't the house. It wasn't your income. It wasn't your negotiation skills. It was one number, a tiny interest rate that changed everything. And here's the shocking part. That same number isn't just affecting your mortgage. It's affecting your car loan, your credit card, your investments, and even your government's finances. Today, we're going to uncover why the world is drowning in debt, why borrowing suddenly became so expensive, and why understanding this could completely change how you think about money. Let's start with something personal. Suppose you borrow $320,000 after putting $80,000 down on a home. A few years ago, that loan might have cost around $1,350 per month. Today, the same loan could easily cost over $2,100 per month. That's nearly $800 extra every month, even though nothing about the house changed. Over 30 years, that difference can add up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Think about that. Two families. Same home. Same loan amount. Yet one family ends up paying dramatically more simply because they bought at a different time. This isn't about being smarter. It isn't about making better financial decisions. It's about one thing. The price of money. Now zoom out. This isn't happening only to homeowners. It's happening to countries, businesses, banks, and ordinary families around the world. Today, global debt is estimated to be around $348 trillion. Governments owe over $100 trillion. Companies owe another massive share. Banks owe trillions. And households like yours make up the rest. Those numbers sound impossible to imagine. So here's another way to think about it. If you counted $1 every second, $1 million would take about 11 days. $1 billion would take over 31 years. $1 trillion. More than 31,000 years. That's how enormous these numbers really are. But here's something most headlines never explain. The total amount of debt isn't actually the biggest problem. The real problem is that borrowing money suddenly became much more expensive. That's the reason millions of people feel financially squeezed today. So why did this happen? To answer that, we need to understand something most people never learn. When banks approve a loan, they aren't simply handing you someone else's savings. Modern banking works differently. Your loan actually creates a new bank deposit. In other words, debt and money are two sides of the same coin. Every dollar someone borrows becomes income or savings for someone else. Which raises an interesting question. If you're paying higher interest every month, who's receiving all that money? Meet someone like Hector. He's retired. For years he kept his savings in safe bank accounts. When interest rates were close to zero, his money earned almost nothing. But today, that same savings account earns several times more than before. So while borrowers suddenly pay much more, savers finally earn meaningful returns again. That's the hidden balance most people never notice. Debt doesn't disappear. It simply moves from borrowers to lenders. And once interest rates rise, that transfer becomes much larger. Now let's answer the biggest question. If debt is becoming so expensive, why do governments keep borrowing? The answer is simple. Governments often need money immediately. Wars, economic recessions, natural disasters, infrastructure, healthcare. Instead of raising taxes overnight or printing huge amounts of money, which can trigger inflation, they borrow. That works well. until interest rates rise. Imagine having a credit card with a low interest rate. Now imagine every year that card expires and you're forced to replace it with a new one charging double the interest. That's essentially how government debt works. Unlike your 30-year fixed mortgage, governments constantly refinance old debt with new debt. When interest rates jump, their interest payments explode. In the United States alone, annual interest payments have climbed close to $1 trillion. Think about that. That's money spent just to pay interest, not to build schools, roads, hospitals, or improve people's lives. It's simply the cost of borrowing. And the same thing is happening across much of the world. But here's something surprising. Many people believe America owes most of its money to China. That's actually not true. A large share of government debt is owned by its own citizens. Pension funds, banks, insurance companies, retirement accounts. In other words, when governments pay interest, much of that money goes back to their own people. That's why debt isn't simply good or bad. It depends on who owes the money, who owns it, and how expensive it becomes. Now let's talk about Japan. Japan has one of the highest debt levels in the world. For years, experts predicted its economy would collapse. But it didn't. Why? Because Japan kept interest rates extremely low for decades. Its government could borrow cheaply. That meant even though total debt was enormous, the cost of servicing that debt stayed manageable. This teaches us one important lesson. The size of debt isn't always the biggest problem. The price of debt is. And that's exactly what changed after inflation surged around the world. So, what happens next? History tells us there are only a few ways countries reduce massive debt. The first is strong economic growth. If the economy grows faster than debt, the burden gradually becomes smaller. The second is inflation. As prices and wages rise over time, fixed debts become easier to repay because future dollars are worth less than today's dollars. The third option is painful spending cuts. Governments reduce expenses. But this often slows the economy and creates political problems. And the last option, default. Simply failing to repay debt. Fortunately, countries that borrow in their own currency rarely choose this path because it can destroy confidence in the entire financial system. So what does all this mean for you? It means waiting for mortgage rates to return to the ultra-low levels of a few years ago may not be the best strategy. Nobody knows exactly where rates will go. Instead, focus on the things you can control. If you have fixed-rate debt and your income continues to grow over time, inflation may actually work in your favor. Your monthly payment stays the same, while your future income has the potential to increase. But if all your money sits in cash earning very little, inflation slowly reduces its purchasing power year after year. That's why understanding interest rates matters so much. They're not just numbers on financial news. They shape your mortgage, your savings, your investments, your business, and even your future wealth. Ending. The world isn't drowning in debt because everyone suddenly became irresponsible. It's because debt has become the foundation of the modern financial system. For more than a decade, money was incredibly cheap. Now, money has a price again. And that single change is affecting almost every financial decision you'll ever make. So instead of asking, when will interest rates go back to normal? Ask yourself a better question. How can I build wealth in a world where money is no longer cheap? Because the people who understand that question today will be the ones making smarter financial decisions tomorrow. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.